himself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Munro in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Hay deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down it towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
On to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's allowed to have fun. Yeah, and it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching the Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to JP Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Penguin RC Simcar Grand Am GT3 series for round 8 of the season, the final round of the season, where we will crown 2 new champions here in the Penguin RC Grand Am GT3 series. I'll be commentator here this afternoon, or this evening, or this morning, wherever you're watching from. Hamish Munro, joined this time by Michael David. Michael, your first time in the booth for the series for the final round of the season. Blake Reynolds, all he has to do is make the checkered flag and he wins the title. But it's the AMs that we also need to keep an eye on tonight, as Marlon Mofta and Carson Quit battle it out for their AM title as well. First of all, Michael, how are you going? And second of all, are you feeling excited to see how these drivers do around the home of the Petit Le Mans here at Road Atlanta?
Well, I gotta say, I'm excited to be here. It is very exciting to see the final round of this wonderful GT3 class racing series here. Road Atlanta is definitely a challenging course. If you are not paying attention going through the S's, you are going to have a bad time. So these drivers have to be on top of things. But that being said, like you said, Blake Reynolds, all he has to do is survive and pretty much finish the first sprint, and he's going to be the champion. So that's going to be nice and exciting to see. Exciting to see what we got going on right there with Mofta and Quint there in the AM class, though. That's going to be our closest battle, so we'll have to take a close look at that all night long.
So, of course, one of the most challenging parts of this circuit is trying to go, side by side and battling your opponents or your competitors through certain corners. Obviously, turn 1, very, very hard to go too wide through there, up through 2, 3, 4 as well. It's a very, very difficult part of the circuit. Then turn 5, which we normally see drivers running it out slightly wide towards the gravel trap on the right-hand side of the circuit. But one of the biggest updates that came into iRacing this week was the debris update. So one thing we're going to have to be cautious of and keeping an eye on, and one thing that drivers are going to have to be cautious of as well, is anyone running wide at turn 5 or running wide down at the FD section for turn 10, 10A and 10B, where they bring it to, or gravel back onto the circuit. And for turn 5 especially, Michael, since they come straight out onto the racing line out of the gravel trap, it could completely change how the rest of the field has to attack that corner to avoid what is already one of the deadliest parts on the circuit, with a wall with your name on it on the left-hand side of the road.
Yeah, this is going to be something that's going to be new to everybody in iRacing. They have definitely changed the model. You can throw a bunch of gravel on the racing line. That is make things very interesting. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on that. Anybody goes off, taps that wall, throws some debris on the track. We've already seen a couple people here in practice that we assumed might have hit a little bit of debris, possibly a little bit of gravel, but we'll just have to keep an eye on that. Another thing we're going to have to keep an eye on, and I just checked here, I know you looked at the weather report and we shouldn't see anything until a little bit later, but I am seeing 2 drivers currently on wet tires. The rain is in the area. We do have an 8% chance of rain. It's overcast right now. I'm not seeing anything spitting from the sky, but that could change at any possible moment.
Yeah, so not only do they have to deal with the debris on the road, which could end up on the racing line, what they're also going to have to deal with is if the debris gets put off the racing line and onto the outside of the circuit where you run in the wet, that then makes it almost undrivable in the rain, because you are always going to have to either attack a puddle or some gravel that's on the side of the road. It's a bit of a Sophie's choice of where do I want to go? Do I want to risk going through the puddle, or do I want to risk getting absolutely no grip at all and running over the gravel, which could see me off the road?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of these drivers have a little bit of a sense in them tonight, because, like you said, you got to go off that racing line when it's raining. You have to make sure you go to the track, the part of the track that doesn't have that rubbered-in tire grip there, because that is going to be the slickest part in the rain. You want to avoid that. Sure, you're going to hit some puddles, but you got to kind of pick and choose which one you feel a lot more comfortable with. Then adding on the fact that there's going to be debris, there's going to be gravel, there's going to be everything there. It's going to be such a messy, messy time if this rain does come in time for our main event.
Well, what it could lead to is absolute fireworks at the end of the night. You watch the end of the Daytona 24-hour, or you watch a race at Daytona and they have fireworks up and along the side of the road. Well, we could get fireworks in the way of crashing cars, of trying just to stay on the road, but actually just giving us a good sense of, well, what is it going to be like in some of these officials now? What's it going to be like in some of these special events when there is rain and there's some gravel on the road? How much higher is the level of difficulty now when it comes to racing on iRacing, and how much has the bell curve changed of meeting that level of difficulty as well, Michael? Because this, it was already hard enough with rain. It was already as difficult as possible. You want to try and run a wet setup when you can. but it all goes out the window with that debris on the road. I had the absolute fortune of calling a race on Wednesday, which was one of the first races with debris, and there were cars going off left, right, and centre. Now, yes, they were in open wheelers, not in GT cars, but again, just finding out how these GT cars handle that debris is going to be imperative, because the majority of special events on iRacing are GT and prototype-based events. Daytona 24-hour, Sebring 12-hour, Watkins 6-hour, etc. And it's one of the biggest community of races in all of iRacing, aside from maybe NASCAR or IndyCar, that actually participate are GT and prototype drivers.
I really think that this is going to affect, obviously, immensely it's going to affect everything, but I think that we've seen iRacing, obviously, over the years, continually upgrading and updating and making everything so much better piece by piece. They pushed off that rain, the rain update for how long? And then when it finally came out, it was pretty good. It needed a little bit of, fixing here and there, but the majority of when they released Rain finally, it was a really good sim, a really good fit to the sim. So I think they're going to have the exact same thing here. It's going to be very realistic with the amount of debris. I think it's going to be extremely challenging, especially in those endurance races. Your 12 hours of Sebring, your Daytona 24, your Le Mans, obviously those, especially when you start getting these multi-classes, there's so much interaction between the hypercars and the GT3 cars. The sun goes down, it gets blackout, all of a sudden the rain's coming down. Man, I just cannot wait to see what this upcoming season and what this race has in store for us.
So just to do some unpacking for a second, as we're about 3 minutes away from the end of qualifying, Cody Cosgrove is sitting in provisional pole with a 118.289. Pole for the AMS is currently held by John Ebersol, who's P5 on the road overall. Marwin Moff, the championship contender, is P2 in behind him. Carsten Quint is at the back of the field, only with a 119.9. This is not what Quint wants if he hopes to challenge for the championship tonight ahead of Mofta, because they come into this round equal on points. They're both on 308 points coming into this race, or these races tonight. If Quint can kind of finish directly behind Mofta, that's okay, because then all he has to do is just beat him in the second race and he'll win the championship, because second race is worth more points. But one thing he needs to be careful of is if he doesn't make it up towards the top 8 and Mofta remains in the top 8, say he finishes 8th, he'll start pole of race 2, and Quint will have a lot more work to do in trying to solidify a second championship for Solpec Precision Racing, since Reynolds has pretty much got it in the bag. As we said, he just has to make the checkered flag for race 1. They would love to do the double. They would love to get the Pro and the AM Championship next to their names, but Quint appears to just not be that comfortable at Road Atlanta, which, after last week, we were at Sandown, hardly anyone had ever done laps there in this field. They should have had hundreds of laps at this circuit, surely. A majority of these drivers would have done Petit Le Mans or any other events that have been at this circuit as well, seeing it is one of the most popular in sports cars in the US.
Yeah, it's definitely, obviously, one of the most popular. Petit Le Mans is one of the major, endurance races here, stateside. So yeah, you would expect all of these drivers to have so much more experience than, like you said, Sandown. But that being said, this is a very challenging track. If you can't get comfortable, if you can't get a rhythm, this track will reach out and bite you where you don't want to be bitten. It is definitely a challenging track. There's some beautiful, fast-flowing sections, but there are some very challenging corners that will just jump out and bite you, like I said. And just to touch back on Carsten Quint there, he's sitting there with a 119.745. We're coming to the very end of qualifying here. That's just not going to cut it. He's all the way back in 17th place, and his championship rival, Marwin Wafta, is sitting comfortably in 6th place, 2nd overall AM. So this is not how Quint wants to start the race. This is just going to compound and make things worse and worse and worse for him. And this is just going to be such a challenge from here. We were discussing like what he needs to do in the first race. Well, I mean, this is just throwing that first race out the door. This is he needs to do something right now as we come to the end of qualifying, and it's just going to be too late.
Yeah, he just could not make it to the line, so he will start at the back of the field. He'll start in P17 on the road, 6th in his class. His championship compatriot, as the rain starts to fall here, Michael, I can see it on screen. His championship contender in Marwan Mofta is 11 positions higher than him on the road this evening. All that Mofta has to do is just beat Quinn on the road tonight, and he wins the title since they've come into it equal on points. The same goes for Carsten Quinn. He just has to beat Mofta on the road, and he wins the championship. But our starting grid for race number 1 will be as follows. We do not want it by class. We want it overall. There we go. It'll be Cody Cosgrove starting pole position ahead of champion-elect Blake Reynolds in P2. Kevin Fanning, Anthony Flores on your second row of the grid. John Ebersol, Marwan Mofta, they'll start for the top 2 of the AMs. They'll be on the third row with plenty of gap between them and P3 further back in the field. Dylan Duval on debut. He'll start at a P7 alongside Justin Nasir in P8. Ray Kingsbury and Brandon Lambert inside the top 10. Paul Mikulajczyk, Casey O'Brien, they will make up the 6th row of the grid with Josh Stultz, Rob Edgell. For your second AMS row, they'll be back in P13 and P14. Roman Ratu not performing in qualifying. He's been one of the more, I want to say, consistent drivers all season, consistently up towards the podium, just struggling tonight in qualifying. Jeff Johnson will start P16, and then importantly, P2 or equal P1st in the AMS Championship. Carsten Quint starts at the back of the field for Solpec Precision Racing. With all of the work to do tonight, we could quite possibly see some carnage with the rain coming here, Michael, and we could quite possibly, well, that may save Carsten if he can keep it clean throughout this race and just keep himself within the fight and on the road. He, maybe nature of elimination, maybe Mofta makes a mistake, ends up at the back, and Quint can win the title by not having to work very hard.
Well, you know what? I was kind of thinking that myself, that maybe this was a bit of a strategy. He knew the weather was coming and he wanted to avoid any early incidents. That being said, though, I see a lot of cars on wet tires, and only 4 of those cars on the field right now are on dries. The most interesting one right now is Blake Reynolds right up front there, our championship, soon-to-be champion leader. So that's an interesting decision there to go with dry tires. But way back in the back, like we said, Carsten Quint on dry tires. This is just, I'm scratching my head to try to figure out what's going on here. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting decision to start on the dries. Blake Reynolds has also started on the dries. Nasir's on dries, and Kingsbury's on dries as well. So they are really pushing the envelope here, pushing the limits as the rain is starting to fall. I suppose maybe the track hasn't been classified wet just yet, but, it's... I think, is it worth having to pit and come in and change to wets when when the rest of the field is starting on those wet tyres? You may just be putting yourself, or basically tying yourself to a pole and trying to run away. It's just going to be too hard.
Yeah, it just seems like the wrong decision. Now, obviously, we're not in the cars. We're up here in the booth. We don't know exactly what the track conditions are. They've been out there, but clearly it wasn't working for him in qualifying. So I just feel like he needed to make a change and do something, and he just went in a direction that I just don't see working for him. But, I mean, hey, who knows? I don't have a magic 8-ball. Maybe he is onto something and the track is perfectly fine and everybody else is on these wets. They're going to be slow. I don't know. But I just see Carsten Quint making the wrong decision a couple times now.
Yep, so this is now going to be quite the crescendo to our championship, ladies and gentlemen. The AM champion contenders start with a monumental amount of cars between them. Mofta starts on the wets. Quint starts on the dries. Possibly a mistake when they grid it up here in race 1. I suppose we'll find out if they pull straight into pit lane on the start of this race. If you're Quint, well, I think you've just got to give in and come straight in, put the wets on, and just try and make it to the end of the race as they come up and over the hill towards the start-finish line to see who will be crowned the champions. All Reynolds has to do for the pros is make the start-finish line at the end of this race, and he is the pro champion. For Mofta and Quint, the job's a little bit harder as well. Lights out and away we go for the final round of the season. Reynolds takes the lead from Cosgrove. The rain is coming down hard in Atlanta as they rocket up and over the hill. Flores Fanning still with them. Ebersol Mofta as well as they come down towards turn 5. No serious incidents that have happened just yet, Michael. They seem to have settled. But how long can Reynolds go on these dries before he inevitably has to come in to put the wet tyres on?
We are starting to see that spray come up off the back of the cars, so we know that the track is getting wet. We know that he's got pace. Obviously, he's up in the championship spot that he's in for a reason, but the cars behind him are just going to have so much more grip. I think this is going to be extremely challenging for him, especially on that racing line that he seems to be wanting to stick to. So this is going to be very challenging. He's trying to put a little bit of temperature into those tires. I think he's going to have to come in. I think he kind of shot himself in the foot here as we see him weaving all over the track trying to get temperature in those tires.
He's just trying to get them up to temp. It's one of the more difficult things to do when you're on the dry tyre. And it starts to rain. You can see how loose he gets in towards the Formula D section. He has to come in and put the wets on. They are not handling this wet road as he's on the dries. Cosgrove takes back the lead. Reynolds is stuck in no man's land on the outside of the circuit with Flores on his inside. He's forced to do another lap. He did not get the inside line, which would have seen him, or which would have saw him allowed to come into pit lane, but he could not do it this time by. So Reynolds has to continue on that dry tyre, thrown in at the proverbial deep end here in the wet, as Mofta is off the road at turn 1, championship contender. He's off the road and Quint has come through, but remember, Quint needs to put the wets on. Surely now, Michael, you've seen your championship contenders off the road at 1. You just come in, you take the wets, and you hope you come out ahead of him on the road.
Yeah, if you're Reynolds, you have to. You have no choice but to come in and take those tires because all you have to do is survive this. Unfortunately there for Mofta, I think there was a bit of an incident that we just caught the tail end of, so we'll have to see if we can get a replay of that at some point. But right now, Clint is sitting pretty, but it's got to be a handful to be able to hold on to that car right there. So we will watch him coming into turn 7 here as we get a replay, and it looks like Mofta just
he turned across to Kingsbury, it seemed.
Yeah, that, I don't know if he lost the rear end traction there, but that definitely was, yeah, it definitely turned in a little bit and lost the rear end, and he went. But that's got to be that's got to be very, very frustrating there.
I think
because
this circuit, you know, the old saying of 2 into 1 doesn't go. I think it's no more true for this track. You cannot go too wide through turn 1, or at least you can barely ever go too wide into turn 1. It hardly ever pays off for anyone.
Not in these conditions, as we see Kingsbury is in the pits. So I wonder if Kingsbury ended up taking quite a bit of damage from that contact.
Well,
there.
He's on the dries, remember, so he might be coming in to actually put the wet tyre on.
That's true. That is true. I did not remember that. We still have Karsten Quint out there on the dries. We still have Justin Nasir on the dries. Blake Reynolds is falling down the timing board, still on the dries. I wonder
he's off the road.
What happened there.
I think he's just struggling for grip, to be honest with you, Michael. Like, yes, all he has to do is make the end of the race. Look at that. He's just sliding it through 4 and up towards turn 5, and he just cannot get the grip on this thing. Oh,
that's a. Yeah, why would you stay out if all you have to do is survive this race? Why would you stay out on those dries?
Yeah, just come in, put the wets on,
hate to
and
say
make
it.
a checkered flag. Like, that's all you've got to do.
Yeah, he's done this completely to himself. So now he's going to be limping around the track. Sure, he doesn't really have any competition out there for him, but that car is not going to get any easier to drive at this point. So, about 4.5 minutes into this 15-minute sprint race. We've already seen quite a few fireworks out on the track already. So, and there is the lone Acura NSX. I almost call it the Honda Acura NSX.
They're the same thing, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, I just want to be as correct as I possibly can be. So, you know, us Americans, we don't know anything. So,
I still don't really understand the thought process of the US brand of Honda, why they just called it Acura. I mean, they still sell Hondas in the US. Like, why make a whole new brand?
It's just like Lexus with Toyota. It's their higher end. It's Acura is Honda's. Ooh, we are seeing some quite close. Oh, there's a car off in the background there as well. That was Mofta is down a lap already.
So
I think
this
Mofta
is
is
Kevin
off.
Fanning. Who's he gone off the road? Has he gone off in the same spot that Reynolds did? He did indeed. And
Coming through
he's
the
on
S's
he's
there.
on the wets though. But that's one of the biggest struggles as well of this circuit. It's one line from turn 3 down to turn 5. It's one line through those sets of corners. So you have to run the wet line. You can't run on the dry line. So it's literally you're tippy-toeing down the hill, hoping that the car keeps grip and that you don't aquaplane off the road.
It looks like that's exactly what happened there. Maybe a little bit too much rubber thrown down beforehand, and it's just extremely slippery through there. So we'll just have to keep an eye on these cars going through the S's there. That's a challenging part of the track, even in the dry. So like you said, there's only one line through there. So we jump here with Quint, who has fallen down the field because Quint did come in and take wet tires.
Yeah, he did.
Yes,
and
he is
still ahead of
Mofta.
Mofta. So that's what's important. So Mofta's at the back, and he's a lap down. But as is, Quint will technically go a lap down as well if he gets past by leaders. But he has come in for those wets, which is crucial. So he's kept himself ahead of Mofta, and he's on the preferred tyre. I think at this point, he came into this race with, equal on points and 10 positions between him and Mofta. He was pretty much given a lifeline from the moment at turn 1 with Mofta. He has been given a saving grace. He's taken the handout that they've given him of, you can come in and take wets and you should stay ahead of him. He's taken that to his full advantage, and now he just has to push on, try and keep the 20-odd second gap back to Mofta, keep his car on the road, and will he be leading the championship into the final race for 45 minutes of racing, where he'll be fighting with Mofta to go back and forth on who's actually going to be crowned champion.
And this is actually going to set that final race up really, really nice, because if they finish in these two positions, now you're giving Quint 9 points, you're giving Mofta 8 points. They're both in the back of the pack right next to each other. That's going to spice things up really nicely for our feature event here. As we see these two cars up front there, two Porsche 911s battling it out. That is Crossgrove and Flores. And if I do remember correctly, I think you were telling me that both of these drivers seem to find their way to each other almost every time they're on the track.
Yeah,
or was that mistake?
No, that was Flores and Fanning. But Flores has been around Crossgrove in the first half of the season before Crossgrove started to find some pace. But right now it's an all-Porsche battle at the front. And, well, Mr. JP would be having an absolute field day if both these cars spin out, because they'd be doing old Porsche things by losing the rear end. If that were to happen, Eversole would take the lead as an AM driver, but he has got the debutant Dylan Duval in behind him. These guys are on wet tyres. And I just want to check, has Reynolds come in for wets? He has, and he's back in P15 at the moment. But importantly, as we said, he just needs to make the checkered flag in both races. He'll claim some points and he'll win the title.
Somebody was sideways there on the front stretch there. I'm not sure who it was. It looked like it was one of the McLarens. We'll have to see. Was it O'Brien?
He's not in a McLaren, but it may have been O'Brien.
I thought I saw a McLaren.
He's in the
Mustang. Okay, there we go.
Classic,
it was
classic Mustang, it seems. Has it lost the rear? It has. Oh, look at the drift.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna leave a mark right there.
Let's get a better view of that as he comes up and over the hill. So he comes up and over, and then the classic Mustang trope of by rear end. He's just doing some Formula D stuff for us, but he's on the wrong part of the circuit for that.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see in a Gt3 car. Maybe in a sure. And I know they got plenty of Mustangs that like to go sideways. That's for sure. But that is not what you want to see. As we have had a battle here and a change of position. Now in second place, Flores up into the lead. We did not see what happened, but we have had a change of position as we see those trails of, just the spray coming off of the back of those cars getting bigger and bigger. Those raindrops getting bigger and bigger. This is really starting to become a very slick track. We've already seen quite a few cars have issues. It's just going to be downhill from here, as we see. Ooh, I would not want to be in that Porsche on the end on the there.
Well, of course,
coming down that
was last season's AM champion. Got moved up into the pros for this season. He's the only pro out there with less than a 2 KI rating. as he's only 1800 at this stage. But Cosgrove, who has been on the rise the last couple of weeks, took his first win back at Barber in the all Solpec Precision Racing podium lockout at that race. As Flores runs it wide through the final corner, they've got O'Brien ahead of them in the Mustang, who's only just gotten going again after hitting the wall last lap, if you recall. So he's only just gotten that Mustang started. As Cosgrove now runs it wide at turn 1, keeps it on the tarmac though somehow, but that's a big gap that he's now lost to the Too Fast Racing entry. As Quint's off the road, Carsten Quint is off the road up at turn 2, but importantly here, Michael, Marwan Mofta is in pit lane.
Yes, he is not on track right now. He's not moving, and ooh, that is not what you want to see right there. That is a...
Let's see what's happened. I think he may have actually gone off at turn 1. Oh, he did run it way wide. Didn't hit the wall, it seems.
Just looked like the front end of that Corvette just didn't want to turn in.
Yeah.
Just kept going, and he jumped to the pits.
So that's unfortunate.
It's definitely unfortunate. I do gotta... I mean, it's easy for me to say here in the booth, but I do gotta disagree with that decision. If you know you have a feature race that's going to be in these conditions, and that's going to be for championship points for the championship, I would try to stay on track no matter what the situation was, to try to learn as much about the track conditions as I possibly could. Just kind of throw out the white flag. You know, I'm not going to be in this battle for this sprint race. We only have 4 minutes left, but just take as much knowledge in on the track as you possibly can. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, like I said, it's so much easier to say that up here in the booth than it is down there on the track as we see this battle for the lead.
It's easier to say that while we're staying nice and dry. But I
Exactly.
suppose one other point to make as well is it's important to stay out there, because you don't know how well Carsten Quint's internet's going to hold up as well. He may drop due to packet loss, and all of a sudden he's at the back of the field, and you're able to pass him for position. You know, you have no idea how his internet's going to hold up. Anyone can drop out at any second. You're better, especially in a sprint race, Michael. Just stay in it till the very end, because it's good points for you. And you're also limiting how many positions you may drop to someone because if they continue and you've stopped, well, they can still make up positions in the race and you can't. And you are just giving in and saying, look, I'm dropping points, but I'm not going to be willing to fight to try and gain any back for myself.
So let's see here. Right now, as things stand, Mopta is only going to receive 8 points. Quint up into 14th. He's going to have 11 points, so that is going to be not that 1 point difference that we were talking about earlier, but that's a pretty solid 6 points right there. That's going to be a nice little buffer there for Quint going into the series finale here.
Yeah, and of course race 2 is worth more points than race 1. And I suppose we should really clarify. Reynolds, he's not necessarily, he's gaining points over Gonzalez, and if Gonzalez were to show up for race 2, he would still have a chance at winning the title. But Reynolds finishing P12, it's still a solid chunk of points for him. Yes, he would love to win the race to maximize those points and really put himself a sprint race ahead on points, but he has to actually gain points on Gonzalez. He came into this race 14 points behind him. He'll be ahead of him now at the end of this one. If Gonzalez doesn't start race 2 or make it for race 2, which we know he's not here, and at that point Reynolds, again, he can just park it and he's won the title. But this is just getting him ahead in the championship fight before the final race, where he would be actually crowned champion. He pretty much he's provisional champion at this point. He's one hand on the cup and just trying to make the checkered flag. We've got 40 seconds left in this race. The leaders are just coming down towards turn 5. So I would say this might possibly be our final lap here, Michael, because they've still got half a lap before the start-finish line.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be the final lap, because as I'm looking at these times, they are doing 127s at best. Our fastest lap is Cody Crossgrove, second place there. He has run a 127.283. That is the fastest lap of the field. So these guys, they have 8 seconds to come through. Oh, this is going to be tight. It's
going to be very tight.
They might just make it.
I think they're going to do it with 1 second to go, possibly. Yeah, they have. It's white flag. White flag.
Wow.
So he did it as it ticked over to the 15. So there's 1 lap left of this race. importantly, you don't, if you were Cosgrove or Flores, you don't want to make the mistake and think, oh, he's made the line at 15, this is the checkered flag, and then you decide you're going to, pull it up and stop. It's important to try and do that extra lap anyway, just in case it's not the final lap. And just to make sure you actually stay up towards the lead. But Flores ran it wide through 4. Cosgrove is all over the back of him now up towards the double right-hander. Wet conditions to end out our championship. I love seeing the IMSA yellow lights on these cars. It's just gorgeous, isn't it? These pro lights on these cars out on the road, the yellow globes. This is reminding me back, I think it was 2006 IMSA at, it was the end of the Laguna Seca round where I think it was the Viper and the C7 were battling for a race win. Like that's what these yellow lights scream to me, is that moment in IMSA history. As they run down towards the FD section, Flores tries to cover the inside line from Cosgrove. It's only one line through 10A and 10B as they tiptoe and dance their way through the corners. Cosgrove's trying to get a run. He's tapped the back of Flores. It's blown up at the final corner.
Synchronized spinning there.
Oh, they're lucky. They've got 9 seconds back to Duval. Cosgrove, though, has taken the lead. Here comes Duval. He's there on debut. Final corner takes the win in the waffle machine of Dylan Duval out of absolutely nowhere. Cosgrove has cost Flores the win, but he's gotten himself P2. Lambert comes home P4 in the Acura. Ratu gets all the way up to P5, 10 positions gained for him. Ebersol P6, P1 for the AMs. And then it's Stultz and Edgel for your top 3 in the AM class, and they all make up the top 8. So the top 3 in AMs will start P1, 2, 3 on the road in race 2 here, Michael, as Kingsbury and Mikolajczyk make up the top 10. Johnston, Reynolds, Nasir, the last year finishes. Quint, P14 on the road, although he did not make the end of the race, but crucially, it's points gained over Mal Mofta leading into the feature race later this evening.
That was a crazy ending there. There was no space between those two cars. Man, you gotta feel for what was it, Flores? No, it was Cosgrove, wasn't it? Cosgrove went into the back of Flores there. Man, you gotta feel for Flores because he was running a great line there. He was great final lap there. Earlier, here's the replay right here.
It's just cut away from us, unfortunately, because it's gone to the next session. So we miss out on that one, unfortunately. But it was a big moment in that race, and it completely changed the ending of the race. Didn't really change the championship standing since Reynolds was so far back, and Duval, well, he's 7 rounds behind on points. So one win's really not going to hurt anyone out there for him, but. That was a crazy end, and I expect it's going to get even worse in race 2 here, Michael, as the rain, I think, is going to start getting a little bit heavier the more we go on.
Yeah, I think you were saying that earlier in the before the broadcast. We were discussing the weather aspect here, and I think it's just going to keep getting wetter and wetter. Didn't really see too much debris on the track yet, but I'm sure we're going to have to deal with that at some point. This track is definitely not very wide in most parts. It's hard to go too wide anywhere on this track, really. So it's going to be a challenge for these drivers, especially as the rain picks up a little bit. Now, I did see quite a few drivers going off track there, so they're going to have to watch themselves. I believe that the update is supposed to make the grass, when it's wet, turn more muddy.
Yeah, so you'll bring mud onto the road instead of the grass or the dirt. Like you can see it there on the outside of the road. There is some dirt there, so I don't think it's necessarily as bad as gravel on the road, but in saying that as well, mud on the outside of the track, you're not going to get turned in. You're going to have very, very low grip. Could very easily run wide and end up in the grass, especially at turn 1, like what we saw with Mofta. So you're in a warm-up now. You've got 3 minutes till race 2. Do you think you're tinkering with your setup at all here, Michael? Just trying to get it tuned up for a bit of wet racing and actually making sure that you are starting on those wet tyres in race 2?
Well, of course. You first of all, you have to start on the wet tires. We learned in the first race there was no other option.
Well,
you have to start on points.
I was about to say, the rain's starting to get a little bit spotty out there. I saw it stop for a moment, and now it's started again. So we may see drivers come in at some point in race 2, maybe to get some dries, but it is a very, very wet track. And how long can it realistically, or how long can it be till it realistically dries out enough for dry tyres? I don't know if it's going to happen in 45 minutes.
Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see on that one, but I definitely would not be starting this race on dry tires. That's for sure.
Definitely not.
That is,
definitely not with that,
that
rooster tail out there as Reynolds loses the rear
No.
at turn 1. So it's a real balancing act, isn't it? You know, the rain already, that was a tough task in itself. Then you've got the debris. Then you've also got the pressure of a championship on the line. And it comes down to this for Carsten Quinton, Amal and Mofta. They have to make the checkered flag if they can. For Mofta, you know, if you run it wide at turn 1, you've just got to stay in it because you don't know what's going to happen to Quint. You don't know where he may end up. I mean, Duval would not have ever dreamed of taking that race win at the end of race 2 or race 1. He would have thought, oh yeah, Flores and Cosgrove, they'll come up to the line, they'll take the win, whatever. But sometimes you're in a race, you think, oh, it'd be great if the leaders took themselves out right now, and it never happens. But it did for Duval in race 1. It could happen to anyone in race 2.
Yeah, no, you definitely got to stay with your game plan there. As far as your setup goes, yeah, if you are noticing a couple little things, your car's not exactly doing what you want it to do, rain setups are going to be a lot different than dry setups, obviously. So if you can tinker with that a little bit, maybe, you know, in practice it was dry, so these cars, what they were doing are definitely going to be changing now. So you need to make small adjustments here and there. You're going to learn your car as the track and the weather changes. You're going to learn different things about your car. I'm going to be really interested to see what that NSX does. Brandon Lambert is the only one running the brand new car out there, so I am very curious to see how that car handles these conditions as we see it getting wetter and wetter and wetter there. I know you did say you saw it lightening up a little bit, but it looks pretty heavy to me right there.
It does. I mean, maybe there's some spots on the track where it's not raining and then it's just raining everywhere else. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just a glitch in the system, but I'm interested to see how the Acura goes, because you would suspect it has new car buff on it, like every car does that gets released by iRacing. One important thing, though, to think about as well, I noticed that the 499P, the Ferrari, is all-wheel drive. I don't believe that'll be eligible to run in IMSA events, because real-life IMSA, they must be rear-wheel drive, which might mean that the iRacing official Daytona 24-hour does not have the Ferrari available for the prototype class.
That is extremely interesting. I did not see that. So, wow. Okay. You just kind of threw me a curveball there. I was not expecting that. So the new Ferrari prototype, the 499P, is all-wheel drive.
It's all-wheel drive.
Obviously for WEC or WEC, that's not an issue, but for IMSA, that is.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that might mean that your official special events, so you know the Watkins Glen 6-hour, the Indy 6-hour, or the Indy 8-hour, I should say, Petit Le Mans, Daytona 24-hour, Sebring 12-hour won't have the Ferrari on the grid. You probably will see in the endurance series where they have the 24-hour endurance series where you have like Monza, Le Mans, stuff like that. You'll see it on that grid. I just don't know. I don't think it'll be on the iRacing official special events because they're technically IMSA events in quotes because it's the D24, Sebring 12-hour, etc. Starting grid though for this race, it's a reverse top 8 of the finishes of race number 1. So Rob Edgell finds himself pole position alongside Josh Stultz, John Ebersol, the top 3 from the AMS last race. Will start top 3 on the road tonight. Roman Ratu, who had a great run in race 1, found himself up 10 spots in P5. Oh, sorry, P5. He'll start, no, P6. Oh, my brain is absolutely gone. It is P5. I don't know why. It's been a long season. He starts P4 tonight. Brandon Lambert, Anthony Flores, P5 and P6 on the road. Cosgrove, Duval make up your top 8. Then it's Kingsbury and Mikolajczyk for your top 10. Johnson and Reynolds your top 12. All Reynolds has to do is make the end of this race, and he is champion. Gonzalez is not in the field. As we move back towards the important championship fight in behind them, Messiah and Quint will start alongside each other, P13 and 14. O'Brien has not made the starting grid for race 2. Fanning, and then it's Mofta, who will now start corrected P16. So there is 4 positions, or 2 positions on the grid between Mofta and Quint, and they are right behind each other on this starting grid. And it's going to be all on. You know, elbows out, fisticuffs for the title, 45 minutes of racing to come your way. Could you ask for anything else at the end of this season? We thought coming into this round it's going to be a one-on-one between Reynolds and Gonzalez. Of course, Gonzalez is not here, so that takes that battle away. But we've still got it for the AMs with Quinton Mofta tonight, Michael. And, well, it's all on. It's on for young and old, and it's all on for the championship in the AMs. We saw Mofta struggle in race 1. We saw Quint struggle as well. Are any of them starting on the dries? No, they're all on wet tyres. It's spotty rain in Atlanta. And tonight there's bad blood for that championship.
Oh yeah, this is going to be one heck of a race here as we see some lights flashing there. Mofta right there at the back end of that field is trying to chase down Karsten Quint. He's going to have a 6-point lead on him coming into this race. So this is going to be everything on the line there. So we saw him have some issues in the first race. These conditions aren't any better at all, so he's going to have to be careful. But as we saw in that first race, a lot of things can happen. So if you're Marwan Mofta, I think you just got to keep your head down, kind of just calm down, forget about that sprint race, and just do what you got to do to survive and make it through this race and let the chips fall where they may.
As we come down towards the start-finish line for the feature race to begin. Edgell and Stoltz, front row of the grid. As we come round, lights are out, we are underway under the stars of the Georgian sky for Road Atlanta this evening as they come up through turn 1, turn 2. It's already 3 wide into turn 1. It doesn't look like anyone's run it wide, but I'm wrong. It's Edgell in the Mustang. He has run it wide at turn 1 and has to just be careful of the rejoin. Mofta's at the back. Stoltz has the lead in the McLaren as Ratu's now up to P2. Flores, who got the victory stolen out of his hands in race number 1, is now back past Duval. Ebersol, Crosgrove, Lambert, Mikulajczyk, your top 8. Reynolds is already up to P9, and he has started on the wets, so he's on to rocket his way up to the front of the field.
Yeah, this is definitely a much cleaner race. Was that a blinking Porsche that I just saw there? I'm not 100% sure.
It might have been Ratu.
We're going to have to, yeah, the one on the right there too. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on that because nobody ever wants to see a car disappear and then reappear in the rearview mirror. We see Karsten Quint is up 1 position in the 13th place. Edgell falling all the way back from first place down to 16th. See if we have any other big movers. Our biggest mover so far, Anthony Flo, 4 spots, and Dylan Duval up 4 spots. So we got a couple big movers here. But yeah, gotta feel bad there for Rob Edgell. There's a spin from our race 1 winner right there, going sideways, not able to hold on to that Corvette. Did he get tagged?
I don't know. I think he may have just lost it on his own. Possibly a bit of mid-engine Corvette like mistakes maybe. Oh no, he ran it slightly wide, side by side with Ratu, and then I think it's that classic moment of a little bit of net code as then made the incident a whole lot worse as Stoltz is off the road at turn 1. So I have to wonder if maybe there was some contact. Yeah, they, you know what? They just do not want to stick to the tarmac. So Flores up his inside. He goes for the switch back. Oh, it just did not want to stick. There was no contact. It didn't like the change of direction that he took.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you before the race started, I've driven a couple races in the McLaren and just does things that I just don't understand. And that seemed like one of those things. I know a lot of people really like the McLaren, but in my opinion, it just never does what I want it to do, and it does strange things and loses the rear end. And I don't know. I know, like I said, a lot of people love it as we see a great battle here for second place. That draft coming down as Crossgrove is side by side with Ratu. We're going to see them trying to go through here as we got Crossgrove up ahead, and he's going to be able to hold on to the position, and Crossgrove taking second place away from Ratu. And on now to Flores. We've seen these two battling before.
Well, you know, Might be, I mentioned bad blood. I think there might be a little bit of bad blood between them after the end of race 1, for sure. Maybe some arguments happening between them as they try and fight their way forward. We've still got 42 minutes left of this race. One of the things that we found happens in this series, especially in these 45-minute races, Michael, you have some incredible racing and battles happening in sort of your first 5 to 10 minutes of the race. Then there's that lull period. It's like a mini enduro. As Duval has spun it around again at the exit of turn 1, he gets it going once again. It's almost like a mini endurance race where the middle sort of 15 to 20 minutes, it's just drivers trying to make it to the next portion of the race, trying to keep it clean, trying to cut clean laps and keep the car out of the wall. Then you get to that final 10 to 15 minutes and gloves are off. It's, you know, you are punching hard to get any positions that you can to make up any gaps you can. Last week at Sandown, Reynolds ended up at the back of the field. And that middle 20 minutes of the race was him just chasing down cars and trying to find his way to the front. And then the final 10 to 15 was him battling for the win. We could see that happen tonight if a fast driver ends up at the back, but do not be surprised if that middle 15 to 20 is these guys just trying to make it to those final 10 minutes where they can battle for whatever position they've got.
Yeah, that's pretty commonplace in racing where you see that lull happen right there in the middle of the race. You kind of get into a rhythm. You don't want to attempt anything too crazy because at the end of the day, it's all about survival. First and foremost, you want to make it to the checkered flag. As we see, Reynolds really does have quite a bit of pace, even in these rough conditions, as we see how much spray is coming off the back of that Honda. Is that the Honda? No, that is not the Honda.
The car up ahead is the Honda. Then there's the... Oh, the Corvette ahead of him. It got caught up through 1 and Reynolds avoided contact but off the road. As there you can see, that's Ebersol who had the moment through 1, checked himself up a little bit, caught a slide, but Reynolds had nowhere to go. He had to take evasive action as Mofta and Duval come through. Who was that off the road then?
Edgell.
It's Rob Edgell in the Panda Spec Mustang. So importantly, just to keep a bit of a live tracking on the championship, Quint is ahead of Mofta, so Quint would be the AM champion if it were to end right now, but Mofta is rocketing up the field towards the back of Quint. Don't be surprised if these guys make it to the end, that they're going to go 1v1 for that title, and it is going to come down to the final lap of the race.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see much of a lull between these two drivers, that's for sure, as we see Mofta starting in the, well, P16 overall, all the way up into 12th place, Quint up there in 10th place. As we see here, Mofta and it's a very strange kind of situation here. You don't want to be too aggressive, but I mean, tell that to somebody who's fighting for a championship. So we see here as Mofta gets by, he's able to move up a position there. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Mofta lost the position there to Ebersol. I had that backwards.
I mean, it happens. They're both in Corvettes, to be fair, and it's dark. It's, you know, we're underneath the night sky.
I am new to this series. I do apologize, but yeah, that was a pretty big miss on my part there. Oh man, we jump up here with Reynolds. Reynolds is still sitting in P6, so he was able to save it and not really lose the position. So this is going to be very interesting. He's going to try to make quick work here of Nasir. Nasir did end up passing him, but because of the way that worked out, Reynolds was able to hold position without losing a position there, as he's going to have a nice little run down this back straight here. He is going to have that move done and dusted before he gets to the corner. So they come into 6 and into 7 right here, and that is the job done there for Ryan Reynolds for Reynolds. Wow, I'm all over the place.
We're in a bit of a Deadpool here. It's that wet out on track.
There you go. There you go. Ryan Reynolds on track. Hey, he wouldn't be the only movie star out there.
No, he would not.
Was it Keanu Reeves with the GR86?
Yeah,
he did
he races
Indianapolis.
GRs. Brad Pitt's filming his Formula One movie at the moment. He finished doing that finished doing the racing scenes at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, of course, as well. But at the moment, Reynolds is trying to chase down Brandon Lambert at this stage. Flores Cosgrove were 2, your top 3. Nasir Mikolajczyk, your top 7. Fanning inside the 8. Duval, your top 9. Then it's the top 5 of the AMs. Johnston, Quint, Ebersol, Mofta, and Stultz all in a line as Reynolds has now gotten off the road with Paul Mikolajczyk at turn 1. What has occurred with him? I think Reynolds has actually dropped out.
What? That's not going to give him the championship lead.
I genuinely think he's actually dropped.
If he was in 12th place in the first race, that gives him 13 points. Let me see if I can
That
get
would
these
put him 1
pulled up.
point
'Cause
behind
I think
Gonzalez.
so. Gonzalez is still going to have the championship lead.
Just to confirm,
No.
though, because he's done a lap, would he still get points for last place? Or does he have to make the end? That's the real question.
Man, this is confusing there.
It may not
So
be
total,
as,
hold on, total points. I might be getting confused here because I'm seeing total points as 60 and 54. Am I looking at the wrong position here?
He was P12, but is it maybe by class? We may actually have to have a chat to Ray Kingsbury because he's out of the race. He might actually be able to confirm it for us. So I might just put a message in and just ask him to just come in.
Yeah, let's get some confirmation there, because if Blake Reynolds is out and he's 1 point behind, obviously that is not a championship win for him. That is a championship win for Gonzalez, who's not been here tonight. Wow, things are really getting spicy here tonight here at Atlanta. We're only getting 10 minutes into this first. We see another car off the red track there. Was that Ebersol? You see here we're following along with Duval. Coming down here, that is turn 3 and down the hill. This is probably the most sketchy position.
I didn't see anything about Reynolds actually going off track. It is literally like he has just dropped out of the session. So let's have a look here. So I believe that's Messier getting past. So let's go back to when Reynolds was last in the session. So this was him getting past Paul Mikolajczyk. Now we're going to watch for him just to absolutely disappear into the nether. So turn 10A and 10B. He gets past Mikolajczyk. This was back on, this was back on lap 4. So let's go lap 5 when he gets past Sincere. So he gets past Sincere.
Doing just fine.
Yeah, he was on a good run. He was up towards the front. I suppose the benefit is if he can get back into the session, he needs to get back into the session. He needs to try and fight his way forward and just pull something. He just needs to try and make it to the end, pretty much. If he has dropped out, he needs to try and get back in and then just try and get to the end of the race because he wants to at least get some points to get past Gonzalez.
See, I mean, he's still in track here. Coming down into 10B, 10A and 10B. I think
he's not in Discord either, so I have to wonder if his internet's completely gone or if he's actually lost power. Mr. Kingsbury, we need to try and figure this out now because Reynolds has dropped out, and by our maths, he would still be a point behind Gonzalez in this race.
Is Michael? I didn't know Michael was racing.
No, he's not here.
He's not.
Where did Reynolds finish in race 1, Michael? It was what, P12?
I think
12th place.
12th place.
He had it. I think he had it clinched as long as Michael didn't show up. So.
Okay. So he had P12 in race 1. He had 14 points between them. So how many points would that have given him, Ray? Would that have given him enough to get past Michael?
Well, he was 40 something. I think he was 40 points ahead of him going into this race. So.
Oh, the standing. Oh, okay, that's why the standings had not been updated when I clicked onto the link.
Oh,
So that is my
there you
mistake.
go.
I had not clicked on to the last race, so that's fine. He's already gone. That's okay. So that does not really change anything then. But do we have any news on why he dropped? Was it internet, or has he lost power or something? Or
I didn't
There
hear
we
anything.
go.
Did it say he had a fall through?
He's
or?
out.
he's gone. He's out of the session.
I mean, Blake's not one to give up on a race in the middle of it. So
No,
unless he crashed.
He didn't tow. He literally came into turn 1 and then went out of existence. So
I mean, I know he does get some issues with the rain with game crashes. Maybe they're starting to reappear again. I don't know. We did a race at Le Mans in the wet a week ago, and not even a week ago, and he was fine. Maybe it's the new build.
I will say, when Season 4 came out, I had a ton of issues with the new build. So that might be, I'm running at a very old computer. I don't know what he's running, but that very well might be the case there.
So,
As we see, Mafta is out. Mafta is out of the race as well.
I was going to say, just to confirm, because of my mistake of not reading the standings properly, just to retcon everything that we've said thus far, Quinn actually came into this round with a 16-point lead over Mofta. They weren't equal on points. So I do apologise. That is my mistake on that one. I should have double-checked what race was actually checked at the top of the standings. So at the moment, with Mofta out, Quinn would win the title. Reynolds has already won it because Gonzalez isn't here. So that's fine. That's confirmed before us. No worries. Thank you so much, Ray. I do apologise for my mistake of not paying attention to the standings. It's been a very, very long season thus far for me in iRacing, and I'm ready for my December break. So it's.
I hear you on that. This was not my best season for.
It's been very long. It's been weeks full of broadcast, and I'm ready for my 3-week break across the rest of December, but. Been an absolute pleasure, though. Been a pleasure to call this season thus far. It's been a fantastic season, and well, hopefully it's going to be a fantastic end for Mr. Quint, who looks to clinch his AM championship.
I think Carson's going to pass me in the points too. The overall.
Yeah, he's kind of proving that he would be a pro next season. So just to confirm, does someone then actually go down to AMs if he goes up?
So the way we've done the Pro-Am split is initially based on iRating, and then as soon as you win the AM championship, you just go up to the Pro. So no one goes down, but we do split it on iRating, and obviously if someone's clearly a Pro pace in the AM championship, we just bump them up right away before it even gets too far into the season. Anthony was borderline last season, and then he missed a round, so it was like we kind of made the decision not to move him up because it was so late in the season. But we try to prevent unfair balancing.
So
yeah, I mean, this is my first race here watching you guys, and it definitely seems like you have a very, very solid balance between the field here, your AMs and your pros. Not to say that the AMs are slow by any sense of the word, but these pros definitely know what they're doing. So whatever you got working, it definitely seems to be going pretty smoothly, in my opinion.
Yeah, we had I think like 40 cars last season, and I think most of our races ran around 25 plus to the end of the season. And even in a field that big, we were seeing a pretty good divide where, maybe like 3 guys were trickling into the pro class. Otherwise, there's a pretty good split. So, it's basically a 2,000 or 2,500 iRating is like the cutoff, and then we take into consideration other things like. A lot of these guys only race leagues. Like Cody doesn't really race officials too much. I don't really race officials too much. So our iRatings are deceptively low, but I've raced against guys that are 5,000-6,000 iRating and kept up. So.
Well, Ray, where do you think, or what do you? Have there been any plans just yet for a calendar for next season? What might we see on you guys racing out next season, because I know you replaced a street circuit race with Sandown this season. Do we maybe see Thruxton or any of the other possible new tracks we've had in the past as well?
Well, anything's possible because we ultimately leave it up to the community to pick the pool of tracks minus a couple. So tracks that were in this season most likely won't be eligible to be voted for next season. We're also not sure if we'll do GT3 or GTP. We're due for a GTP season since we stopped doing multi-class. But with the build they just put out for the GTPs where the cars are just like unrealistically grippy, and oh, there goes Kirsten. Where they're unrealistically grippy, I don't know if we'll do GTP or if we'll just roll another GT3 season, so it's all kind of up in the air. But yeah, I mean, you'd probably see Daytona on the schedule because it's going to be run next season, and it's due up. We usually run it every other season. I would say Watkins Glen's probably due to come back. Yeah, what other tracks? Let me go to last season's schedule and see which ones are going to be back.
Can we maybe see a bit of Montreal?
We haven't seen Montreal in a good couple of years, so there's a good chance. I think that does actually slot into. I don't know if that's in a street circuit roll or if it's in like a secondary pool because IMSA doesn't go there. But
I would claim it's a street circuit. It's an island that was made just to be a racetrack with its walls surrounding it.
yeah, if you've ever been there, I've actually never been for a race, but I went to the casino there once when I was in Montreal. It's a pretty neat looking island, a little circuit.
Yeah, it's definitely a track that's on one of my bucket lists to go see. I would love to check that out and maybe even get an aerial view. That would be really cool to fly like a helicopter, take a helicopter ride over it so you can really get like a full view of it. I think that'd be really cool to see.
Okay, so tracks that we could see next season that people would probably like. Well, Long Beach and Belle Isle are both back up for voting, and we always do a street circuit, so you're probably pretty likely to see one of them. Sebring is up again. We can run Sebring, so you'll probably see that, and Bathurst is up again, so you'll probably see Bathurst on there as well. Otherwise, VIR, Algarve, Imola, and Laguna Seca were the other ones that could possibly be thrown in the mix for voting that weren't already available this last season. And then I think there was a couple tracks that were so popular that they didn't even get included in this vote. I didn't put the 2023 results up onto our website yet. I have it still on a spreadsheet. One sec.
Can I just say, I love Algarve. It is one of my favorite circuits on iRacing, and I think it's such a good challenge for drivers. Can I pose, just while you're finding your previous calendars, can I pose the option to maybe run an LMP3 series?
Well, so we did do an LMP3 and GT4 season before with fixed sets, and it was pretty popular, so yeah, it's actually not off the table. It would probably be a 5 or 6 race season instead of an 8. But yeah, it's not unheard of. Oh, and I didn't put the tracks on this schedule. Oh.
Hey Ray, can I pick your brain a little bit? I want to pick your brain a little bit about, you know, the new with having the debris on the track with the wet track here tonight, going from a dry circuit in practice straight into basically a race that just started raining. What was that like with this new debris model? Have you noticed any more challenges? Because it seemed like there was a lot of cars that were, you know, spinning off track or just not able to turn in and just having to kind of go off into the grass and pull off to the side a little bit. What was that like for you?
Honestly, I just drove Le Mans and it was like moderate rain, I would say.
Well, I mean, earlier tonight you drove the sprint race this evening.
Yeah, so I mean, like compared to the old build, I would say it was a lot easier to drive in the rain. Honestly, it didn't feel very difficult at all for me.
Okay.
Pretty much, you just set the car neutral going into the corner, and it was pretty much fine. I would definitely say going from, I mean, remember I started the sprint race on the dry tires because I thought that would work. It clearly didn't.
No.
So like, you know, yeah, it got progressively worse on the dry tire. Like previously I felt like I could probably go on it was a bone dry track when we started. And it started raining during the pace lap. It got very wet very quick. So I don't know if that's an update, because I remember during the spot 24 I went like 15 minutes on the dry tires. And it was no problem. So I don't know if that was just, you know, the update, or if there wasn't cars going or what. But clearly that was the wrong tire choice. Pretty much immediately I was equal on pace the first lap, and then the second lap I was off, and I had to, you know, and then I wrecked it and I had to come in. So, it got progressively worse, and then I was on the rain tires, and it felt fine, honestly. It didn't really feel too much less grippy in the feature than the sprint. I didn't really notice the puddles too much either here. Maybe it's just the track.
Yeah, I'm seeing a couple puddles off to the side of the track. I'm not really seeing anything grouping up on the track, but I mean, that might be deceptive because it is awful dark out there. As we see, Duval is up into 4th place here. Just to give a rundown real quick, we got Crossgrove in 1st place, Flores in 2nd place, Ratu in 3rd place, Duval in 4th, and rounding out your top 5 is Lambert. Lambert, the only one running that Acura NSX. Have you run any laps on the NSX? Have any opinions on it? I see that you usually, which is something that I personally love driving myself, so I was wondering if you have any thoughts on the NSX yet.
I didn't touch it, but Brandon was telling me the front end just felt like it didn't have much grip on dry track, and I'm guessing that's just set up because, you know, it literally just came out basically in the last couple of days here. At the same time, the Porsche has no front grip here either, so it could just be the track. You know, I think certain cars are going to suit certain tracks, and maybe this just isn't the track for this car, but I mean, it looks like he's doing fine in the rain. He's keeping up with a guy that's a pro driver, so.
Yeah, you definitely do see some of that water pooling up on the end of these certain corners here, but yeah, it looks like he's holding on to that pretty easily. It seems like it gets a little jumpy over the curbs, but comes back to you really quickly, so I feel like it's probably gonna have some strengths at a few tracks, but like you said, you know, with it being a new car, and this just might not be the track for it, but he seems like he's hanging on to it pretty well there.
Ray, have you ever thought, because I've always thought as an admin for another series, have you ever thought about possibly in future seasons pushing to have kind of a ticket-based system for people choosing cars? Because obviously drivers can't change cars in the season without giving up big points. But have you actually thought about actually having like a limited number of like a certain car? So like there could only be, say, 2 McLarens or 3 McLarens or 2 Corvettes or 3 Corvettes, etc. So then you actually have more of a manufacturer spread across the field.
Yeah, I've considered a few things because we've been at this for, I want to say we go all the way back to 2020 or 2021 with this series. 2020, yeah. So I've kind of always considered, like, should we do some sort of like draft at the end of the season for the next season for the manufacturers of the teams, and actually incentivize the team championship, so you want to enter the team championship rather than drive as a privateer, and then kind of let the privateers do their own thing, you know, because it's hard enough not having a team, right? But it seems like nowadays there's so many people on teams, so it's been hard because I feel like then you'd have to limit teams to a certain number of cars. We recently moved to the model of not even locking teams to the same cars anymore, just to try to increase the diversity a little bit. And you know what, I would say, like, this season had a little less diversity, but last season I know we had an equal number of Porsches, Corvettes, Mustangs, and I think it was the Ferrari. And we even had a couple Lambos and Mercedes, so there's a lot more diversity last season.
Looking at the setup here right now, you have a nice diversity from what you have on track. You know, you've got, what, 6 Corvettes, 4 McLarens, 4 Porsches, and the 2 Mustangs. But it would be nice to see a couple more. You know, you're not seeing any of the Mercedes. Obviously, the BMW is a different ball game completely with setup issues with that. But it would be nice to see a little bit less of the mid and rear engine and a little more of the front engine, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think it would be ideal. It's just you know, that one of the battles you pick to fight, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's not something we've really felt like we need to worry too much about, you know, right now, because, you know, I think our bigger focus is just trying to get the driver count up. We keep a really consistent core of drivers, and you know, last season it was a lot bigger, and this season we kept the core the same. I think there's only a few drivers that are new, but you know, I really would like to grow the field up north of 30 cars if we can, and really try to get things going for the long run a little bit more. You know, ideally we'd have a second series running alongside this that, you know, kind of helps stunt the growth of the weekly series as well. We just haven't gotten there. We planned, we just didn't execute as much as we hoped in the off seasons. You know, people get busy with life, and that was really what happened here. But we're trending in a good direction, especially now that we've got a quality broadcast partner that's stable. It's really hard to find those. So that was something we struggled with for a good couple years.
I do want to cut you off real quick. We have a great battle here for first place. Crossgroves and Flores, who came together in the first race there at this very corner. We'll see if we're able to get them through without any issue, as Flores takes the lead away from Crossgrove, coming up and down through the last corner here, and it looks like they are able to negotiate that a lot smoother than they did at the end of the sprint race there. But this has been a really close battle here. I saw Crossgrove on that previous lap. Crossgrove did have some issues coming down the hill he got very squirrely coming out there into turn 5, so that definitely brought Flores into play there. But I do apologize for cutting you off there. I just wanted to notate the fact that we do have some really good racing up here in the front.
Ray, of course, you are Cody's teammate. Do you think it was his fault at the end of last race, or do you think it was Flores' fault since they came together and gave Duval the win?
Oh, you know, I didn't even see it. Neither of them sounded very angry in the chat, though. They're both in the same channel, and they were laughing about it. So I think they probably they would chalk it up to mixed blame there.
Nice little racing incident between the two drivers. I like it. If they're both cool with it, then there's nothing wrong with some good close racing there. I'm all about.
See, I would have blamed someone that didn't race today. So like, it's Gonzalez's fault. This is not here.
I'm gonna go ahead and, you know what, I'm gonna copy you, and I'm just gonna blame James.
Yeah. That's Parker's fault for him not being here. You know, it's easier to blame someone who's not here than it is to someone who is. You know, it's well, if you were there, they may not have been in that position.
It's true. You know, if James was here, we would. I mean, he'd probably still be yelling about blue flags. What am I kidding?
He would.
I don't even have any.
I don't think
we don't even have any blue flags.
Yeah, I don't think we've actually had any thus far. That's been an issue.
No, but you'd still find a reason to bring it up.
He would. So Ray, obviously 2025, big year. You guys have somewhat of a break over the end of December. Aside from obviously calendar for next season and deciding whether to keep it as GTs or to go to GTPs again, any other plans in the pipeline that you think might be worth kind of stating on an open air channel, or are you trying to keep things close to your chest?
No, nothing too much. We'll put out some sort of strategic planning brief when we finally figure it out and get it to a point where we can actually publish it. It's no secret that we invite the community into our conversations, so I won't say too much here, but everybody's invited to kind of partake, and we'll see what happens with this series. I think it'll probably end up being another season of Gt3 if they don't fix the GDP build, but I also know that it might not hurt to run a little small season in GDP or even GT4. But yeah, really what we had originally thought with our planning was we would kind of do a more normal length series right after this new year, and then we would save like more of a small fun summer series for the summer, because usually that second season of the year kind of ends in the middle of the summer, so that would give you like a little like fun series from like July to August, right?
Just something to bring people back when they can, and just have a little fun series just to kind of tie everything over into the fall.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really awesome, summer D4 series, and it was just fun racing. The grid sizes were fine. We didn't do a broadcast or anything. It was just good hard racing, and people just had fun. It was something else. I remember we did, 3 20-minute races for that, and I remember going, or maybe it was like 15, 50, and 30. I remember going like last to first at Barber, which is like, anybody goes last to first at Barber, you're like, there's no way, but I did it. I wrecked in the sprint and went last to first in the feature.
Hats off to you, man. That's pretty impressive there. Like I said, this is my first introduction here. Obviously, the last race of the season, but this has been a barnstormer so far. So it's really nice to see the talent that you guys have in this league. It's very consistent racing. Even in these guys are just doing what they can to have good, clean racing, but really just throwing it around, and it seems like they're having fun out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the expectation, is that they are gonna go out there and they're gonna give each other the room to race each other. We have guidelines in our rule book that kind of to facilitate racing. So if you have overlap at the point of a turn in for a corner, and that overlap can be a piece of paper, does not matter as long as you're there. You're expected to be able to race side by side to the corner, and that just opens up opportunities for people to get side by side. Like Blake went side by side with me through the S's here in the rain at the start of this race, and we all race around each other enough. I'm like, okay, we're going, that's fine. I'm like, it's good. I'm just gonna lift, and he's gonna be there, and he's not gonna overdrive it, and I'm not gonna overdrive it, and we got through it fine. yeah, it was. I don't know if it made it on the broadcast, but it was just, it probably wasn't very eventful looking because, we all drove through there clean. I would say, like, if we're not racing side by side, then, what's the point of coming out? We're not supposed to be in a line, right? So.
Well, I mean, I do think that ruling on overtaking and on battling has actually kind of opened up the options for a lot more tracks for your calendars, because obviously there are some tracks that you just cannot pass at because it's easy to defend, but when you kind of take the ability to defend away, or you make the ability to defend harder by forcing rules, that actually creates some phenomenal racing at some fantastic circuits. Like, it really opened up Barber for me. It made it a lot more enjoyable than what I would normally find Barber to be. And even a couple more tracks as well. I think, unfortunately, like Le Mans, it's always, it works really, really well for an endurance race. But I think it also made, it made Sandown incredible because, again, Sandown, there's 2 passing opportunities, turn 9 and turn 1. And you saw people trying to go for it at turn 4, which created some havoc, but it was still great racing, and they're even trying to go for it at turn 6 too. So it opened up a lot of options and opportunities for great battling. I mean, Road America, from turn 4 through about turn 9, we saw drivers going side by side for the whole section, just because the rules allow it, and drivers come to racing around each other. So I think it's actually quite cool to see that, especially at those tracks. And there's probably a handful of tracks you can name on the service which are normally, lead to some poor viewing because you don't get many battles. But with that rule set, it opens those up as actually, hey, these tracks could actually be quite good with this rule set because you're forcing the battles to actually be able to happen. There's not really much room for middle ground on that rule.
Yeah, I mean, if you cause a wreck and you're not obeying that rule, you're going to be the one that's at fault, right?
Yeah.
And I think the guys that get involved, it also prevents wrecks, right? Because everybody knows what to expect. But the guys that are getting in the wrecks are the ones that aren't obeying that rule, right? They're the ones that don't seem to understand it, maybe, or they, because I think what you see in a lot of official racing and a lot of other series is, this expectation that you're not really expected to go side by side into a corner. That if you don't have yourself up to the door or the number board of the other car, you don't have a right to go side by side. And we've just tried to take that out of the question, like that little subjective judgment. If you're there, you're there. It doesn't give you the excuse to dive bomb. And I think what we've seen is if someone is going in too hot and they've only established that tiny bit of overlap and they're really not making the corner, if you give them the room, they're not going to carry the speed because they're going to be on the brakes to try to avoid you. So you're going to beat them off the corner anyways. So even at like Belle Isle on the street course, I think it created some good opportunities last season. We've also got the rule where you're allowed to defend your line. You're allowed to choose a line, in other words, before a corner. But if you say you come across from the outside to the inside, you can't just come back across to the left-hand side of the track in front of the other car just because you're clear. Our expectation is that you're going to leave a car width on the racing line. That way, if that driver brakes, they can pull alongside the outside of you. They don't rear-end you. That's prevented a lot of accidents, but it also allows you to get a run off the corner if you set a driver up to defend the inside line. So yeah, that's worked well as well. I don't know, I can't speak enough about how good the racing's been. I know at Spa this season, Blake and I were side by side for 2 laps straight, so.
Yeah, it also broke. Ooh. Ebersol just hit the wall real hard there on the front straight there.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's really struggling in that Corvette.
Coming down here. Just lost the rear. Oh, he got off onto the grass there, and it just. He was a passenger at that point. I really like the idea of the rule set that you guys have, because not only does it allow you to race side by side and be comfortable with racing side by side, it helps you build all of that trust with the other drivers. And I know that's how a lot of league racing is, but it really seems like this league, these drivers are very, very comfortable and confident to be able to go side by side, like you were saying on lap 1 there, where you and I'm sorry, was it who were you going side by side with there on the first lap? But just like it just opens up so much there, and then you're able to just be more comfortable and to be a lot more patient, but it just seems like that it really just opens the racing up for everybody to kind of just enjoy it more on track.
Yeah, I'd definitely say everybody's enjoying it. That's the whole point of this, right? We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't enjoy it. There's plenty of places to go if this isn't your cup of tea, of course. But really, what we're trying to create is a place where, pros, AMs, newbies, veterans can just come and enjoy it, right? You're a pro, you can come in here, you can have a good battle, you can enjoy the racing, you can go home. Well, you're already home, hopefully, but you can go to bed at the end of the night, having had a great battle and had fun. Okay, if you're a new guy, well, hopefully it wasn't too intimidating for you because our rule set allows you to race, and because there's an AM class, hopefully you feel like you've been able to actually race and enjoy yourself. So our goal really is to kind of build a community where you can have two groups of people on the track, and everybody can kind of learn from each other. Everybody can have some give or take.
That trust is just there. That's really what impresses me the most here, is just the amount of trust that I've been able to witness as a first time seeing this league. Ooh, that was a big snap there. That curb is very wet in that rear end. But yeah, the trust that these drivers seem to have in each other, that's a wonderful thing that you don't see a lot of.
I'm just enjoying the wet driving. This is actually our first wet race. I just wish I made it past the third lap.
So, Ray,
my steering got broke.
Oh, no. It can happen. Mechanical failures on and inside the sim as well can take you out of a race. Are you thinking of maybe a car change next season if you were to run GTs again, Ray? Or are you going to try and stick with a Porsche if that happens?
I want to look at the schedule more closely this year. Last season was definitely a Porsche schedule, and I really was up there in the points. I don't know what I got. I think I got second or third, but I was competing for possibly race wins a lot of the time. And other than Blake, he was kind of like the standout, and I just kind of was too lazy to make more sets, so I just rolled with the Porsche again, saying well, it'll be good enough. It really didn't work at Road America. It was treacherous. It was pretty good at Le Mans. It was pretty good here. Sandown was fine. Barber was fine. Red Bull Ring was shockingly good. Zandvoort was not fun. Spa was not very good. So there's a lot of tracks that it was just really, really tough at. I don't think it excelled at any of the tracks either. Like, I think we looked at Sandown. I think the Corvette and the McLaren actually kept it at bay quite well. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to look away from the Porsche for next season. I'm not going to rule it out because it's a car I'm really, really comfortable with. But I just did it. I'm doing an endurance league with Blake where we're sharing a Corvette with someone else, and I've been coming to grips with that car, and he's got a whole season under his belt, obviously, with it. So that's on the radar. I'm a big Corvette guy, so obviously considering that.
So just quickly, we've just seen a blue flag cause the P3 entry of Dylan Duval to spin around. So, oh no, he actually lost it on his own, and Jeff Johnson just had to pull it up and try not to hit Duval. So.
You got another angle at that?
Yeah, we'll see if we have actual car contact between Duval and Crosgrove.
Yeah, I don't think I think the blue flag just happened to be in. Yeah, blue flag was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he didn't cause that.
No, he didn't.
The rear end of that vet coming through.
And now he's under pressure from Lambert for the end of the race. Crosgrove is still 1.8 seconds behind Flores. Well, Ray, is there anything else that you want to chat about just quickly? We have got about 3 minutes to go. Anything else you want to chat about for next year in terms of Simcar and any other series you might want to be running, or any other things you might have in the pipeline or anything like that?
No, I mean, I think what I'm comfortable saying is we'll be back.
Flores sideways there. This is going to give Crossgrove. Oh, and Flores is into the wall, too. So that is going to be done and dusted there for Flores. I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to catch back up with Crossgrove. That's going to move Duval up there. Is Lambert going to take over as well? That should move Lambert. Yeah, there we go.
So, yeah.
So that incident right there just dropped Flores out of the top three. So no longer a podium position, and the rear end of that Porsche is not going to be very fun to try for the rest of the race.
Ray, you can
Still got a win, though.
You can blame Flores' crash for getting cut off then.
I mean, that was mega.
It was huge, absolutely huge. All right, well, yeah, thank you so much for coming over to chat to us, Ray. We're looking forward to next season. James hasn't told me if we've confirmed that we're still broadcasting it or not. So I don't know. I'm not going to speak for him, but if we are, I look forward to the opportunity again. If we aren't, I think whoever gets the opportunity, it's going to be an incredible series. As Mr. Reynolds has now joined us as well, the pro champion is in the house. As I completely screwed up the points earlier. Blake, I looked at the wrong round and thought, oh yeah, he's behind Michael on points, but no, you came in with about 40-point lead and you won the title in race 1, so congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just unfortunately what happened tonight, but it was a good season overall. Gonzo couldn't show up tonight. He had told me that about a month ago, that he was unable to make the race tonight, so I kind of knew if I just did everything I did at Sandown, I'd be fine. Yeah, and then obviously tonight I took a gamble, started on the dries, did not work. I crashed. Got 3 or 4 laps of practice on the wets, and then I felt like I did a good job there. Except I made contact with John Ebersol. I think I accidentally spun him out. It was kind of a racing incident. We no grip out there, so sorry to him if that was my fault. I didn't actually get to look because my internet went out for 20 minutes. Thank you, Xfinity. Yeah, and now I'm here.
Blake, what was the decision there that made you go with the dries instead of the wets? Was it just because practice was dry and everything, and the rain hadn't started yet? Because it looked like a majority. I think there was only 4 cars that didn't take wets. So what was your thought process there?
Oh, I knew I had the championship locked up pretty much as long as I started both the races.
Just quickly, we're about to get the checkered flag. So Cody Cosgrove, though, is about to come around the final corner. Checkered flag for him. He takes the win in race number 1. Oh, no, it hasn't actually given the checkered, sorry. It's given us the white flag, so it must be time plus an extra lap. So, sorry, just to cut you off quickly there, but we are on the final lap.
Yeah, it's all good. I knew Cody would be strong. Porsche's really good in the wet. My teammate, Dylan Duvall, on Channel 199 Sim Racing, he's shown up today with a nice butter numbered car.
Yeah, a bit of a waffle on the top of that one.
Waffle livery going on. He found that on Tranny Paints. We tricked him. He is purposely, he is a Coke driver. We tricked him into running this because he's been, it's off season for the Coke series. So I was like, Dylan, why don't you come race Simcar? He said, okay. He shows up. He's also purposely, as kind of a inside joke within our team, not ever done a lap in the rain.
and yet somehow he took his first victory.
Yes.
Did you not think as well to maybe bring Mr. Kerwin with
Well, I told... Well, Casey has run in Simcar before. But, we're a little below his pedigree. So, anyway, but... Got Dylan out here, and then he ended up doing good. After about 3 laps, he's like, "Oh wait, this is fine." So here he is, and he probably could have won this race easily if he didn't just spin out about 5 laps ago. I tuned in, but good win to Cody so far.
Yeah, he's
about to take the checkered.
Yeah, he's coming up and over the hill towards the checkered flag for the final time this season. Cody Cosgrove takes himself a win for himself and Solpec Precision Racing. Dylan Duval on debut tonight for this season comes across the line P2. Brandon Lambert in the Acura comes home P3. Karsten Quint, who's further back in the field, battling with Paul Mikolajczyk. They've only just started their final lap of the race. He's only a couple of miles away from claiming the AM Championship for this season and making it another Solpec car in the pro class there for you guys, Blake.
Yeah, good win to Cody, and I guess John went off. I thought John was leading the M class there. I didn't actually look. I guess Karsten's gonna get the win, and does this give him the championship?
It does, yes. Yeah, he led the title race into this round.
Excellent.
And Mofta not finishing race 1 hurt him, and him not finishing race 2's hurt him as well. So
unfortunate for Marwin. He's had such a great season. Excellent to Karsten as well. He's kept in it. He's had some stronger and weaker weeks, especially with some of the AM drivers being really good at some rounds and, pushing up into the pro order. So good stuff to Karsten. If he could just round this bend, stay ahead of Josh Stoltz, and I guess win the race, and that'd be a double championship for Solpec Precision Racing.
There you have it. There it is.
Two
Carson
titles
Quint coming through in 9th place.
Yeah, 2 wins tonight, or a win in both classes, and 2 championships for the season for the team there, Blake, you being one of the champions.
Yes, very good. I'm very excited. It probably doesn't sound like it. I will be probably in a couple days' time. Be like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Even though I'm the reigning champion as of right now. Yeah.
Well,
you know,
probably
unintentionally.
thank the fact that Gonzo wasn't here this week.
Yeah, Gonzo probably should have won this championship. Let's be honest. He was more consistent. McLaren was the stronger car most of the season. It just the way it was. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say other than thank Solpec Precision Racing, Kevin Fanning for supplying the setups when I couldn't get the Apex set to work, or if I couldn't find a setup. So shout out to him and his team. I forget what their team's called. Shout out to you guys for broadcasting, Penguin RC for sponsoring Too Fast Racing. Yeah, what other sponsors on my card? Channel 199, Abruzzi, Next Level Racing. Yes, that is it.
Very
what a
good.
season.
Very good. Well, we so look forward to seeing how you go next season when we return. Have a incredible holiday period over the rest of December and a happy new year as well, Blake. Thanks so much for coming to have a chat to us. Luckily, your internet did actually blow back up again, so you could actually officially claim your championship in the broadcast booth at least. But
yes, and watch the Game Awards. I've been watching.
All right. Well, enjoy the break there, Blake. We look forward to seeing how you go next season, and if you can make it a three-peat for the start of 2025.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, we have got our 2 race winners in the interview waiting room. We'll drag them both in because they are both from the same team of Solpec Precision Racing, Cody Crosgrove and Carsten Quint. Mr. Crosgrove, P1 on the road tonight in race number 2, sorry. And Carsten, P1 for the AMs, and you've now also claimed a second championship this season for Solpec Precision Racing, becoming the AM champion. First of all, Cody, what happened in the FD section in race 1 with Mr. Flores?
Me and Anthony were in Discord talking, and he said something. He's like, "Oh, we gotta be side by side for the last corner," and I tried to get on his inside, and it did not work out.
So, just because I call you the Austin Matthews of Solpec does not mean you have to slap shot people on the final corner of a race.
It was definitely not on purpose.
Hey, those were some beautiful Porsche pirouettes.
Yeah, me and Anthony were battling pretty good, even in the feature too. So it was a good race overall.
And then Mr. Quint, unfortunately for your championship competitor in Mr. Mofta, he pulled out of both races, solidifying your championship in the AMs. Be racing in the pros next season. How does it feel to get that one done and become the next AM champion in the series?
It feels pretty good. I'm just glad I was able to make all the races this year because there's a few where my schedule kind of looked like I wouldn't be able to, and I knew I just kind of had to get solid finishes and stuff. So it feels pretty good.
And we've asked pretty much everyone we've actually spoken to in the last 2 weeks, are they going to have a car change next season? Are either of you planning on a car change? I know, obviously, Cody, you ran the Porsche this season, which struggled according to Mr. Kingsbury, and then Carsten, according to Blake, you drove the strongest car in the McLaren. Do either of you plan to have a bit of a car change, or are you going to try and stick with what you got?
I'm planning on probably testing different cars and seeing what's gonna be good for next season. Because me, like Ray was saying, me and him, and even Anthony, he said he was struggling with the Porsche all season. So yeah, it wasn't the Porsche's season for sure.
And I've just noticed that Mr. Dylan Duval is also in the waiting room, so we'll drag him in a moment, and as well as Jeff Johnson, who's in there too. And we'll drag them both in. We'll have a quick chat to them. Mr. Duval, Mr. Johnson, we're making it a party at the moment. Currently, the Canadians outweigh any other country in this broadcast booth right now. We have 3 of them. There's a lot of maple syrup around. I'm very, very sticky from all 3 of you being here. But, you know, how did you feel, first of all, Dylan? First race of the season. You took a win in race 1 in the wet, in your first wet race, apparently, according to Blake Reynolds. And you had a nice little waffle car on or waffle livery on your car this week. So you're happy with the performance, and you're hoping that you'll be able to make a comeback next season before the Coke Series starts up again?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience for me. Like you alluded to with what Blake told you, I had never loaded into a rain server in my entire life prior to gridding for the sprint race. So it's definitely a learning experience and honestly a lot of fun. Kind of regret waiting so long to try it because honestly I had a blast. I'm happy with the performance. I wish I wouldn't have made that last mistake there. I feel like I had a good chance at it, and then we were passing traffic, and I just inexperienced, didn't know what line to take, and I just spun out, unfortunately.
Well, you know, that's racing sometimes, especially in the wet. It's such a tough task to kind of climb and get over, learning how to drive in the wet, especially when you're thrown at the literal deep end of your first wet server, being a GT race. Mr. Johnson, P3 for the AMs tonight in race 2. You made it a 4th Canadian that's in here now. You know, I feel like, unfortunately for Michael, if we just start talking about ice hockey, then he might be left to no man's land at this point.
Hey, funny story is I'm actually a huge hockey fan.
Oh, very good. What team do you support, Michael?
Well, I actually have 2. I'm a Sabres fan, but mostly a Caps fan, so that I might get booed out of here, but I love the Caps.
I'm just going to assume that the rest of the other 5 of us all support Canadian teams.
Well, do I lose my Canadian card if I say I don't like hockey?
I'm going to leave that up to the other Canadians in the chat. It's not my place to call, being not from North America. But as an Oilers fan, I don't think I have much pull in that say either, because I'm going to assume that at least 2 people in here are Leafs fans, which they have enough to do with in their life.
I'm a Canucks fan here, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we got some West Coast connections happening, but but no. Well, I mean, you know, it's been a great season. Obviously, Dylan, this is your first race for the season tonight, but to the other guys in here, of course, are Cody, Carsten, and Jeff. How did you feel your seasons went as a whole? Obviously, Carsten, you must be pretty happy. You are the AM champion, but do you think there was anything better that any of you could have done throughout the season, or maybe if you'd chosen a different car at the start of the season, you think you may have gone better, or what do you think best made up your championship hopes?
Go ahead, Carson.
I think the season went probably as good as it could for me. There's a lot of times where I just told myself keep the car on the road, and sure enough, guys would drop out and have an off or something like that, and it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I'd just like to think I could have done better if I'd not missed so many races. That's my biggest downfall for the season.
Honestly, I think my downfall is my car choice too. I think if I would have picked like McLaren or something else, I think it would have been a little different. But overall, I had a fun season. You guys put on a good show, and we appreciate you.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming over chat to us, gentlemen. We really, really appreciate it. We'll have to try and organise more chats in future before next season, of course, and learn a bit more about this field. If we are broadcasting next season, I'd love to know more about all the drivers, your interest, stuff like that, because it's more stuff that we can pull from in the booth. But an incredible season. Congratulations to you, Cody, on your race win. You're lucky. Mr. Reynolds already shouted out your sponsors for both you and Carsten, so you don't have to do that. And then to Carsten as well, congratulations on your AM win and then also your AM championship as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Thank you so much. Enjoy your break. Happy holidays, whichever one you celebrate. And hopefully you guys have a happy and safe New Year as well. And we'll see you guys next season.
Thanks. Yes, you too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Shout out to JP. You guys are great. And go Oilers.
Cheers, boys. Thank you. We also have Mr. Lambert in the booth as well, Michael. So we're just getting all the chats out
Ooh,
today.
yeah.
We're getting
Bring them in here. I
all
want
the
to
chats
hear
out.
all about that.
Mr. Lambert, Michael is hungry to have you in here because he's been we filled the chat with Canadians and he needs some American freedom in here at the moment.
I guess some Southern American freedom. How about that? Does that work?
That'll work. That'll work.
I live
quite
in
well.
South Carolina.
Alabama.
There you go. Yeah, I'm actually really curious. I generally drive. I'm really curious, really interested. What was your opinion on the NS tonight?
Well, in the dry, it pushed like a dump truck. In the wet, it was okay. No, brand new car. I'm an Acura Honda fanboy, so as soon as the NSX hit, I was driving it. But like first impression, I need to find somebody who can make a setup because, dear Lord, this car needs some help. It is it's a push monster on entry, and then it's fine through the center and off, but on entry it's very tight. No front end grip.
Okay. I literally have like 15 minutes behind the wheel of it, so I just wanted to get somebody else's opinion on it because, I mean, it just looks like a great car. Like it looks like it's going to be a great car with proper setups, but I mean,
yeah, it definitely will be
for me. I'm not.
I think it's just it's cool to have another GT in the field. Like the McLaren didn't feel it like this feels like when we got the Corvette and the Mustang back in season 2, because to me like season 3, because to me the McLaren almost felt like it was long overdue and it didn't really feel new because we already had a McLaren, but all of a sudden in the last 12 months we've had 3 new like manufacturers come into the GT class in iRacing, with the Ford, the Chevy, and then now the Acura as well. I will forever though just call it the Honda or the VTEC machine, but it's it's cool and I look forward to, because I know that iRacing have been working on the Lexus. I look forward to when we get the Lexus as well, being that they are so IMSA heavy, and just get more variety in the GT field, because a lot of the time, but it still happens. Look at this field. We came into the season with 8 different GT cars, and I think we only had about 5 of them on track, not including the Acura. All season, we never had a Fez, we never had a Lambo, we never had a Beamer on track. And it's similar to what we were talking about with Ray earlier, Michael, of limiting those car choices and saying, look, put more focus on that team's championship. The higher up in the order you finish, you get first choice of what car you want, and then it just goes down from there towards the bottom of the list, where then the last team is left with the scraps pretty much. But that's racing. It happens. Brandon, are you hopeful? And I'm going to assume that you're going to be a VTEC boy for the rest of your life now in a GT car.
Possibly. I am looking forward to the Lexus too, because that's a great car.
Yeah.
But no, definitely for next year, at least for the next season, I will definitely be in the Acura again. This season for me was kind of like an off season where I took most of the season off. I was just in race control. Just ran a couple of races, ran the Audi at Barber, and then you saw my glorious brake pedal failure.
Yep.
So that was great. And I actually just got new pedals. Well, I got them Tuesday. So breaking those in.
Well, I hope you don't break them in. 'Cause they didn't really work out very well for the last set, but.
Well, the last set were V3s that were about 4 years old now, and
end of their lifespan, pretty much.
Well, the elastomers were shot in them, and then also the load cell was starting to go out, and it went out completely in that race at Barber. That was a fun little ride there.
You've just
technical
reminded me
issues
that,
happen in real life.
Yeah, it does. It does. You've just reminded me that I always forget about the Audi in the GT field, because you never see it anymore. Like when it came out at the start of last year, you always saw it. Now it's just like you hardly ever see Audis in the field, and it's a shame because like we're never going to get a new Audi GT car. That's literally the last one that we'll ever get.
It makes no sense.
I know.
Makes no sense.
I know. Like you're gonna be going into Formula One. Why would you not continue your GT program as well?
your dominant GT program.
Yeah, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. But oh, Brandon, it was good to have a chat to you. Good to have you out on track once again. In the Acura, were you limited bashing it down the straight like any good Honda driver would?
No, I take care of my Honda.
Very good. All right. Well, enjoy your break, Brandon. Have a happy holidays and a safe and happy New Year as well. We'll see you when the next season begins, hopefully, and we'll see how the old VTEC power goes next year in 2025.
Appreciate it, man. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Well, Michael, your first dipping of toes, per se, into the waters of Simcar. Last week it was Mr. Brad's first dip in the toes as well. He enjoyed himself at Sandown. Did you enjoy yourself tonight at Road Atlanta?
Immensely. I thought the racing was great. That side-by-side rule that they have really just helps with the racecraft, obviously, but it helps build trust with everybody. I just think in the long run, that's the best option that you can have for a league, to provide that safety net of being comfortable to go side by side with somebody. I think it's a great idea. Obviously, the conditions always going to be fun, especially here at Road Atlanta. It's just going to be a fun, challenging. And these guys definitely showed up. They gave us a great race. And anytime that I am able to bring up hockey, by the way, the Caps beat the Blue Jackets tonight 2-1 in overtime, so let's go. TAPS. Anytime I can talk about hockey, I'm all about it. So I thought I had a great time, and
we need to get JP.
I'm glad to have been here.
We need to get JP on the hockey front. We need to get him as a hockey fan, surely.
Well, he's become a NASCAR fan. He's become an Oval fan.
As long as he doesn't support the Panthers, I'm cool. Like, I don't care. Just as long as he doesn't support the Panthers or the Hurricanes, then I'm chilling.
Yeah, no, I got a lot of beef with the Hurricanes myself. So
both of them cost the Oilers a cup. So screw both of them. But apart from that, but no. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming over. For watching along with us tonight for the final round of the season out at Road Atlanta. It's been an absolutely incredible event. Once again, an incredible season as well this season. The championships went to Blake Reynolds and Carsten Quint of Saltpeck Precision Racing. Who knows who it's going to be next season? And if Reynolds can go back to back to back as a Triple Pete champion, you'll have to wait and see next season. But for myself, Hamish, Munro, and Michael David alongside, thank you so much for watching us here on JP Broadcasting. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe, and the bell icon as well, so you're notified whenever we go racing here on JP Broadcasting. We've got so much racing for you during the week. There's never a day that you're without some on-track action out of the sim. But until next time, stay safe, drive hard, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is that you are celebrating across December, and a happy and safe New Year. We'll see you guys soon for another show. But until then, bye for now.